Welcome to GizmoSapiens show 273. I'm Chris,
And I am Matt.
and we're going to talk about things we didn't learn from the movies.
Excellent.
So, um, we're going to talk about four stories that I found entirely interesting in tech. When I say in tech, I'm using the greater science tech, not just
Okay.
computer tech,
I'm with
consumer
you.
electronics tech.
Yeah.
Um, Robots that can be hacked by a whisper,
Okay.
anti-bear drones in Japan.
Okay.
A pasta sauce company is selling a dinner table voice recorder.
Why?
You'll find out. And an artificial egg that might help bring back extinct birds. That one's directly from. Didn't we learn anything from
Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park?
Oh, seriously.
So, this is. It's all about embodied tech, AI, and automation showing up in physical, sometimes weird ways in the real world. Um, it's really almost like things we watched in the movies through the 70s and 80s and 90s up till now are becoming real moments in. So when Matt makes his comments about Skynet, we should not be so flippant about it anymore. So, um Chinese hacker group Dark Navy has hacked and shown a hack for Unitree's security robot. And what they did is they found out that they could abuse the AI voice commands to compromise the Unitree humanoid robot system and built-in language model agent. They could then use the robot via short-range wireless Bluetooth to infect another robot that was offline and not on the network, turning it into a Trojan horse for further compromise. In their demo, they issued a hostile command and the robot advanced on a mannequin and struck it. So basically,
So now we got Skynet and RoboCop.
exactly,
Two movies we didn't learn anything from.
exactly. So, there's so many things wrong with this.
Yeah.
So one, you have a voice interface that's tied directly to a large language model that's controlling robot behavior. There's no way we can make an LLM hallucinate. No, I
No,
mean it's
just
security is
ask it a
so good. Yeah,
question.
just um, they created obviously there was no. We're creating a humanoid security robot, but we have not bothered to uh, security protected against running malicious code. This the three laws of robotics need to apply here. And then they were able to compromise additional robots using Bluetooth uh, to go from one robot to another. I mean, this is like the Will Smith version of iRobot.
Well, three movies we didn't learn anything from. uh,
But what? Why is this concerning? Well, one, voice was used or was used as an attack vector, and
yeah.
voice does not have to be human voice. We could just do it with a recording, which means you could also do it with a subsonic recording, because although we might not register it, the microphone, if it's in the,
Yeah.
you could put it in a register that the microphone is capable of picking up that humans won't hear. Um, it required no tools, no physical access, just being able to give it noise within earshot of the robot. And I think this is a, as they're trying to justify using robots, and we're seeing that you start like apartment buildings buying the robot dogs to do security. Um,
I struggle with all of that.
I do too, because we're seeing actual operational roles, and how many TV shows and movies have we seen that have portrayed this over the years, not in a good light. I mean, Battlestar Galactica alone should tell us not to do this.
3 movies and a TV show. Twice.
Nice. Yeah. And, and and you know, what's the other thing is, I talk about the three laws of robotics.
Did
Um,
you've read this more recently than I have, I can
yeah.
guarantee you. Did Asimov ever address, like, how that was hard coded into the robots?
Yes.
Why haven't we emulated that? We're emulating everything else from that movie.
I,
Why not emulate that?
exactly. I don't know why. I mean, it should be part of the fundamental firmware, the underlying firmware of the system. Now, the funny thing is if you read the actual book I Robot, which is it's if you're not aware, it's one of the greatest science fiction
It really is.
books ever written. But it's actually, uh, I could use the word vignettes, but most people probably wouldn't understand that because academic rigor in schools isn't great. Um, but it's a bunch of short stories that all relate to about the early implementation of robots, and there's some recurring characters um, between the stories, uh, and and how they're resolving conflicts within the three laws of robotics. And while Isaac Asimov was one of the greatest science fiction writers, he did not write. He wrote over several hundred short stories and major books that start with iRobot and end with robots and empire. And the resolution to the stories that start in iRobot don't get resolved until robots and empire. He did not write any of this in order. I mean, iRobot was first and robots and empire was kind of last. I think it was the last of his major novels. But the short stories and the other stuff in between, and he created this. If you read it all in the chronological order that in the stories, not when they were written, you realize it's one long story that talks about humanity. And but a lot of iRobot is about the conflicts between the three laws of robotics and how robots would misbehave even with those. So I don't know that it's completely infallible, but it's better than nothing.
I'll take the start
Yeah,
there. Like, I don't know how you build robot dogs that have autonomy and weapons and not expect them to eventually become Skynet. I
I
don't know
know.
how do you.
Well, or even just, get hacked and get taken over and used in a malicious way. I mean, the thing is
Well, that's the problem with machines in general.
well, the thing is here is that, you know, as we look at these consumer and enterprise-based robot platforms, um, and don't get me wrong, I hate laws and I hate, there when somebody says there ought to be a law, that makes me bristle because there's so many laws on the books that just don't get enforced, and adding another one is another unenforceable thing. It just makes litigation more fun. If I
My
were a lawyer, maybe I'd be like, there ought to be a law, because then I could figure out how to litigate with it. But I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to be a lawyer. Um,
Shakespeare had it right.
yeah, and but should there be legislation uh,
Well, see,
and
now you're
for
you're
but what I'm saying is, should there be legislation that requires safety certification, hardened control paths, uh, you know, a strict update regime, how they can be updated, should that be something that there should be rules and regulations to enforce?
the
The problem
problem.
is who's going to enforce it?
Well, I will add a problem before that. uh, you have to have a political class that's smart enough to know how to regulate
Well,
that industry, which we don't have.
no, and we lost the only one who probably did Tuesday. So you
I
know,
don't think that this is actually it is a national problem, but it's going to be solved in your local state house.
yes, I agree. I agree.
And if you think Congress is not tech savvy,
Your local state
your
house is worse.
local state house is way worse.
The only thing that would be greater or good for Ohio is Vivek, because he does understand technology. But the problem is he's becoming less of a technologist and more of a politician.
Which I don't necessarily mind if he's still willing to acknowledge that he may no longer be the smartest guy in the room and that he has to actually bring in
Yeah,
a cabinet of people who know more
yeah.
than he does.
Well, and the other question from a technical perspective, because this is subjective, is what does good robot security look like? You know, um, minimized wireless connectivity or no wireless connectivity. Uh, you know, three laws of robotics. Do we have audited AI policies? The three laws there. Do we air gap motion controllers? Which I think that would be kind of hard to do.
That would be kind of hard to do, I would think.
But that way, uh, you know, it would make it harder if somebody got into the system for them to take complete control. But that how do you do that? Um, and it's also the thing out of nightmares uh, with an AI, because in a sense, these robots are now physical manifestations of large language models,
Yes.
which do not have, as Sam Altman and a lot of these AI guys want to call AGI, and they will not have AGI during our lifetimes or probably the next 20. Um, but what what does all of this look like, and how do we address it? But if you go back, I'm paraphrasing a quote from Einstein, but morality and legislation are usually and this is during his day, are usually 50 years behind the technology as it's released. you know look at cars. How long did it take that? How long were cars around before they realized that breathing in leaded gas fumes was bad?
Well, and again, I think that has less to do with legislation and more to do with science.
Yeah.
Science and technology have to work hand in hand, and when they don't, the science and the engineering have to work hand in hand,
Yeah,
and
but
when it doesn't,
everybody knew that lead was bad for you to breathe in. At that point, the Romans taught us that.
well, that becomes an engineering problem of how do you get the car to go using a fuel that's unleaded.
Yeah. I don't think that was a huge engineering leap either. I think that was just a material science change. But that being said, so I mean, but I mean, as as we look at the next decade or two going forward, this is where consumer electronics is going to head towards. You know, they've been touting since the late 70s. Radio Shack used to sell. It was incredibly expensive too, for a Radio Shack item at the time. But they had that robot that was like R2D2 that had the tray, and it had some, you could program. It was algorithmically programmed, but you could program it to, like, come around, and it would, like, somebody could be in the kitchen, set a glass of water on it, and would bring it to somebody in the living room.
The waiter robots are a real thing. I
Yeah.
mean, those have been deployed to restaurants already. I
Well,
mean,
and
like that's a real
look
thing.
at have you seen the new robots that they've put in Star Wars World and Disney? I mean, they're real robots. Like, you would see in the movies that we would be our CGI in the movies. They're real physical robots, and there's a video of Adam Savage where he gets to
Yeah,
interact with them, and he's pushing them
yeah,
around and stuff
yeah.
to see how they react and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, wait until that one headbutts you, man. Stupid human. So let's so that's one example of robots that are in society. Um, in Let's see if I can say this right. In Ishinomaki City in Miyagi Prefecture in Japan, they're deploying bear repellent drones, which look like wolves. They're the scariest looking wolves. They're like from your nightmare on one hand, but in the light of day, they also look kind of humorous. But they spray um, capsaicin spray to uh, to scare off bears because in that prefecture this year they've had 4 people killed by bear attacks.
There's got to be a better way of doing that.
And it uses they
Because
just
now the hack for that is going to be, let's now, instead of some pepper spray, let's put, I don't know, Ebola in it.
yeah.
Or,
Oh, I know.
and that's going to be the
Well,
next.
and the thing is so it's a two-step process. So you have one robot that's not really a drone. It's chained. That's the wolf.
Uh huh.
That's chained, or it's got like a pipe so that it stays and it acts as a deterrent. It's scary. It looks like a wolf and it makes noise. And then there's an actual drone that can fly up to a kilometer away. It locates bears via onboard capsule cameras, and then it sprays capsaicin-based bear repellent at a 5 to 10 meter range as a non-lethal deterrent. Just like you said, let's hack that. Let's spray some Ebola.
And switching the targeting parameters from bear to human, I assure you, is not that
Yeah,
difficult.
and this is the whole idea, or the whole thing is this is um, bear encounters have been gone up 160% since 2021, with over 20,000 reported incidents and dozens of injuries and deaths.
Is that tragic? Yes. Is it worth investing in Skynet? It is not.
Well, the other thing is this really effective versus hunting or culling the bear population? Because it sounds to me like they have too many bears who can't, and you're talking about an island nation too, where as their population grows, the land's not growing with them,
Yeah.
so they're not forcing the bears into there's no place for the bears to go. They can't go into a new territory, which causes other issues. But so the bears have no recourse but to,
Push back.
push back and encroach in human occupied areas. And the other question you have to ask yourself is, over time, will the bears, they might be annoyed by the drones, but will they eventually just ignore them and continue doing what they're doing? Bears are fairly smart creatures. I mean, there's a story, at least in the Pacific Northwest, at least one every year, of them going into a grocery store and starting to eat food off the shelves.
Yeah, that makes a fun viral video every year.
Yeah.
Every year you get at least one of those.
And then to your point, could this tech be used for other things like crowd control of people as opposed to crowd control of animals, culling of
If
people?
the Cincinnati Police Department could get a drone that could control people, they
They'd use
would
it.
they would use
Absolutely.
it. I just heard today the FBI is working with the NYPD to use drones for the FIFA World Cup games that's designed to be anti-drone technology. So they're using drones against drones in a crowd control environment. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and let's compare this with what's going on. So in one case, we have the fact that a security robot becomes a security liability because of its connections, and now we're using these drones in a deliberate remote safety tool. What is the difference between, the concerns that we have with the security robot versus the security drone robot? what are the safeguards in place to keep them from being used against people?
I would say there are none,
You know,
and
it's just like there's a stupid rule in the United States about drones. Like, you're not allowed, it's illegal to arm a drone. I'm like, but the guys who care about that don't care.
right.
You know, yeah,
That's just going to be
it's
that's going to be one more thing to charge the guy that does it after he's already done
done
it
it exactly.
and used it. I don't know that they're always going to refer to those kinds of things as a deterrent, but that's not deterring anybody
No, it's
except law-abiding
law-abiding
citizens
citizens who would
who
have never
wouldn't have
done it
used it in
anyway.
the first place.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It's just bad overall. You know, and again, if somebody wants to use something in a malicious manner, it's like it's I look at this argument and I go, you know, there definitely needs to be some. I I I don't think the certification of particularly like a security drone, there should be some sort of standard, like, you know, we have UL for electrical code, and there should be some sort of standard for drones that, and it can be dynamically modified over time, not require, you know, as vulnerabilities and other things are found in it, um because these, it's, you know, a SCADA system is important because it controls power and water and things like that. But if a SCADA system is compromised, there are safeguards in place that are required by regulate rules and regulations that can keep, like, a hacker from completely, you know, melting down a nuclear uh, reactor, as a good example. Or um, you know, and technically there's supposed to be some controls, although there was a hack of a water system in Florida where they turned the I can't remember if it was the fluoride or the chlorination up to make it harmful. But, you know, there's supposed to be safeguards in those places. Um, but, you know, should there be safeguards on these things required by rules and regulation? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to stop a bad actor from doing something, but
Well, it's interesting that you brought up underwriters laboratories
yeah,
because what this is really about is liability.
correct. That's what I was bringing up.
And I have a hard time believing that the Detroit Police Department is going to be held liable when RoboCop goes on a terror spree. The NYPD is not going to be held liable when they use a drone to take out some other drone and it kills 50 people on the ground because it had a nuclear payload,
Yeah.
which I'm totally making up, but you get the point.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's
Who's going to ultimately be
is liable.
liable is what I would like to know, because I think liability will slow a lot of this crap down.
Yeah,
When Flock gets held liable for data breaches,
exactly.
they will
We'll
fix
fix
it.
it. Yep.
When the local police department gets held liable for data breaches, suddenly warrants will become a thing.
I know.
Heaven forbid we follow the law.
Yep. Well, let's go to a happier thing. And
Indeed.
when I say happier, I don't really mean
I
happier.
mean, miserable.
So, this company called StoryCorps and Prego have created this thing called the Connection Keeper.
Okay. This is the digital recorder
Yes.
thing?
So
Okay.
the whole idea is the Connection Keeper. It's a puck-sized screenless audio recorder. Sits on the dinner table. It's ARM-based. It has 16 gigabytes of local storage, has no Wi-Fi, no AI, and it can record up to 8 hours of CD quality audio. The you can Families can later plug it into a PC via USB-C, upload the recordings to StoryCorps portal, and choose whether to keep them private or contribute to an archive where some may end up at the Library of Congress. And so, what the whole idea of this is that it's to encourage discussion and talking at family dinner tables, uh, and the whole idea of being able to share conversations and then send it to the Library of Congress is so that there's an archive of what how people uh
We are
spoke and everything else during and capture some of these family moments for history.
we already have too many podcasters.
Yeah.
Uh, if you're inviting over great great Uncle Harold, who fought in the Great Great War, and he has a story to tell, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And man, would that make a great podcast, by the way.
Yes, it would.
But man, I don't need to know the what Homer did at the plant today.
Yeah. Now, it is refreshing in that it's AI free. Uh,
Give that time.
it's offline by default because you have to hook it to a computer to upload the data, and your uploads are, it's an explicit uh, deny or allow.
Uh, Once these things deploy and a sufficient number of uh,
Somebody will figure out how
people
to.
use it, they will decide, you know what, let's just turn that thing on. And now you got another Internet of Things device that is going to be spying on you 24/7. No,
True.
thank you.
Well,
I'll
so,
pass.
so that comes to my question: is this charming or creepy recording every dinner? It's
It's
creepy.
creepy.
I agree. And then even more so, what about consent?
Yeah. Uh,
You know, do you have people who are at the table who don't consent to you recording that? What about children who aren't capable of giving consent until they're of the age of majority? And really, why would I need a specialized device if I wanted to do that? Why couldn't you just take your cell phone and put the recorder on and go,
or just do the podcast.
yeah, do a podcast? I think this is a ploy. Um, I think ultimately it'll be like do you remember uh, it was PS2 connected, but it was the Scan Cat. It was a barcode scanner, and the whole idea was that, like, if you it was kind of like the precursor to QR codes
Uh huh.
in one sense. It was like, the advertising in a magazine could have a barcode, and you could take your scan cat and hit it, and it would send the data through the PS2 port on your computer to the website or whatever. That was the whole idea of it, and I mean, they made millions of these things as a marketing ploy, and they gave them away for free. You would find them in your mailbox. You didn't even ask for one. And it ended up being, a large e-waste problem for most people.
I can see that.
And I think this is just another attempt at that. And I don't understand. I guess the whole idea of teaming with Prego is it's supposed to sell pasta sauce or something.
Yeah. The whole connection. If I'm Prego, why would I want to be associated with something that's super creepy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So let's move on to the last thing, which I think is the creepiest. So this is our Jurassic Park moment in real life. I mean, as, as I was reading about this and doing a little more additional research, this was an Ars Technica article too, so it was fairly well researched in the first place. But Colossal Biosciences have developed a synthetic eggshell, and so in it's a 3D printed honeycomb container with a transparent silicone membrane, and it can host the entire development of a bird embryo after egg contents are transferred in a day or two after laying and fertilization. Now, the original the author of the article, who's a journalist, they said, I'm now a journalist, but they're a science journalist, but they were originally a research scientist in biology, and they talked about, where they actually did research with chickens, um, where they would dissolve parts of the shell and then they would observe through the membrane the development, but you could only capture so much of it because you couldn't leave it open all the time. You have to eventually, and then over time, while they were still doing it, somebody figured a way where they could mount a camera and then it would periodically take a picture and do all this. Well, in this case, they're like, well, this is a really good thing because now we can watch the development of an embryo and video record it and basically TiVo back and forth to figure out the development things that were missing from where we were getting these time lapse shots. And but I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, so we're able to remove a chicken egg or the embryo and the yolk from an actual egg and now put it in this artificial thing. And the reason Colossus Biosciences created this was to bring back the dodo and the muo, both extinct birds, because you can't start from an egg. And these birds were so much bigger than most domestic birds that they could use to like artificially inseminate an egg today, that a chicken egg or a duck egg or a goose egg or even an ostrich egg aren't big enough for these birds.
Yeah.
and and so that's why they created this. And I'm like, this is, now we're going to inject it with frog
Frog
DNA
DNA and
and
fill in the
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 missing
the blanks.
components, yeah. And this is crazy because the whole idea, Colossus's whole business plan at Colossus Bioscience or Colossal Biosciences is they're a de-extinction company, is to bring back species that are extinct. And I argue that species are extinct because
Well,
they were meant to be
there's a
extinct.
reason.
Now, if you wanted to bring back like homing pigeons, which humans actually caused to go extinct, that's a little more nuanced argument. But like the dodo and the moa,
And
you
then
know, it,
what's the difference between that and then pterodactyl?
yeah.
I mean,
Well, but this has bigger things. So, there are companies who are and I think it might even still be Colossal Biosciences, but I know there's a couple of companies out there who they're trying to bring back the mammoth. And
sure,
you
and
you
they'll
know
have spared no expense. That's what they do. But I will agree with Malcolm and say just because we can do a thing
should we do it?
doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. And so and what's to say that you bring back a species like the dodo, and the reason they because we don't have a good reason to understand why they went extinct. Did they go extinct because of a disease vector that they carried? Or did they go extinct because,
Some dodo avian flu
yeah,
that will now somehow mutate into some human form and wipe us all
and
out?
still be the dodo avian flu?
Yeah. I,
Yeah, I mean, there's just let let it go. I don't, I just don't understand, and what does it do to current biodiversity? Well, creating dodos or moas, if they're created in such a way that they then begin to reproduce and they reproduce and then they make another population of species extinct.
because the dodo is is a predator of some other life
Well,
that.
I'd be more concerned about the moa because it's a big bird.
Well, yeah,
You know what was what was its predator and what was it the predator of?
yeah, exactly.
You know, and then okay, they perfect this. What's not to stop them from doing the next thing? You know, because frankly,
Well, and eventually it does become Jurassic Park, where
yeah. Well, but you got to
you're
remember, an egg in avian species is a external womb. So how long does it take them to go from egg to artificial womb to cloning to Skynet to cyborgs with human skin?
skin jobs look like the rest of us now.
You know, Cylons. I mean, really, I'm serious. You know, maybe the ending of the Michael Moore Battlestar Galactica is right. You know, we repeat ourselves over and over and over and over again.
Well, I have to correctly, it's Ronald Moore because Michael Moore ain't that
Or not Michael Moore, you're right, Ronald Moore.
smart.
Well, you know, General Motors has to be involved in this at some point. You know, they're the ones making the Skynet robots. You're right, Ronald Moore. Sorry. That's the funny part. So, what was the most unsettling of the four things we talked about?
Well, again, I'm gonna have to go with that last one because again, I think the problem with Jurassic Park is it leads to so many other
Well,
ethically
ethically challenging
challenging
things, yeah.
things.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Jurassic Park movies after you know, the first two, uh, you know, they've tried to explore things like, you know, when they resurrected all the dinosaurs, what it did to the world ecology and all this because they escaped the islands and all this other stuff. And um, I mean, I think that's light on the possibilities. You know, we laugh about the Ronald Moore ending of Battlestar Galactica, but you know, it could get to that point. You know, artificial humanity uh, you know, the ability to make humans without having to, you know, the genetic diversity or the you know, have them tied to people. I mean, think about this. Even if it's for altruistic people who can't have children, we're able to take their genetic material and create with an artificial womb
Designer genetics is already an ethical
issue. Yeah,
deep gray area. You find out your kid is potentially gonna have a debilitating disability. Do you correct it through genetics?
yeah,
Do you and this is the worst part of this field, do you kill it
yeah.
so that that genetic trait doesn't get passed on to another
Well, I
generation?
mean, we look at that at Iceland. Down kids with Down syndrome are they're everybody's tested in the womb, and they terminate pregnancies if they have birth defects.
That's the Groningen protocol,
Yeah,
which I blogged on like 20, 30 years ago. Yeah, that's still a real
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
You know, I don't,
it's eugenics.
I it totally is.
So, uh,
You didn't answer the question.
what
Which was the creepiest of the things we covered?
I don't know. I all four of them I think are really creepy. from the thing most, I don't think it's creepy, but the thing most upsetting to me is the artificial womb, because um, to me that's like the doctor in China who was using CRISPR to modify genes of babies in the womb, for enhancement.
Here's another movie we didn't learn from, The Matrix,
Yeah, exactly.
where, now we're going to have farms of babies that are going to be created to be batteries
Yeah.
for
Um,
Skynet.
yeah, but I think from the most creepy from a real world, like something in front of your face, is these robots that are being put out there for security and industrial and consumer use, that have no safeguards. And
This is the
wait,
further
and
argument.
again, it goes back to liability. Who,
Yeah.
the first one that doesn't save, or through inaction, uh ends up hurting or killing a person, uh who's going to be liable for that,
I,
and
I,
and what are the consequences?
this is the extension of the militarization of first responders in
Yeah.
all reality. And I law enforcement in particular has been militarized to the point where things that I wouldn't necessarily have as much of a problem being developed for our military that then gets civilian application
Hmm.
is a slippery
Well,
slope to
it
Skynet,
changes the whole idea of to serve and protect.
which I think we've already discovered, even through litigation, is a fictitious thing.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court has already said that the purpose of law enforcement is not to protect and serve. It's something else entirely,
Entirely.
and that's another whole episode.
Yep. Well, I think, let us know what you think about these things. What are some real world science fiction concepts that you're seeing, play out in life? Send us some feedback to gizmosapiens@gmail.com. That's GizmoSapiens@gmail.com. And we'll see you on the digital flip side.
You've been listening to Gizmo Sapiens, a technology and entertainment podcast. You can reach us at our email address at gizmosapiens@gmail.com. That's GizmoSapiens@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you, and we'll see you next week from the digital flip side.